up, ADOS and our allies? You know who it is. Angela Nirvana, your hostess with the mostest on the Friends of ADOS TV. Angela Nirvana presents The Way I See It, family. Follow on in. Start your watch parties. Today is our first book club read, Prejudential. I hope you guys are ready to dig into the first 14 pages. I said 12 in a prior promotion, but it's really 14 pages. Really easy read. Prejudential by Margaret Kimberley. I was inspired by Dr. Shauna Etienne, one of my vloggers in YouTube, to get this book in order to understand how we got here. Right, family? How did we get to this place where we are literally in the fight of our lives to prevent from becoming the permanent underclass in the country our ancestors built with their lives, family? And so she was doing a show and spoke about this book, and I thought it is so important to understand that, unakin to what Joe Biden said, Trump is not the first racist president we ever had. They're all racist, okay? And we need to understand that lesser of two evil may have gotten the boomers to a certain place where they got certain commendations, right? They got affirmative action and the right to be somewhat American, right? They got $20 to $30 an hour manufacturing jobs, free education. They were able, with their monies, to buy homes, which were a lot more affordable than they are today. They got the hookup. They got their pensions. They're comfortable, family, okay? But there was a second part to that civil rights fight that all of their goodies lulled them to sleep. And they continued doing this lesser of two evil, two-step shuffle all the way to our demise, family. Just a quick reminder, out here in LA, ADOS is $200 liquid. To Kamala's Asian Indian people, $245,000 liquid. To Boston's $8 liquid. To Miami's $11 liquid. We have two-stepped, lesser of two evil, two-step shuffle all the way down. So it begs the question, family, when are we going to stop this nonsense? When are we going to break the back of the establishment? When are we going to get the courage to let America fall and burn all the way to the ground? If that means it's got to do that. Because let me help you understand something, family. Those Democrats are pushing for 12 years. Yes, they are. And this is the way I see it. Angela Nirvana presents, right? My show, my monkey and my circus. So let me tell you the way I see it in my crystal ball. Biden goes out in 2 years because he is challenged with dementia. They put Kamala in there for his 2 years, and then she gets 2 terms. Okay? Do you see the trick bag? And God bless you, immigrants. Love you. But we see the ADOS movement is hip to the games, family. We see how they are moving quickly to replace us. Okay, so they don't have to pay that reparations in the trillions over multi-generations. Yes, fam. So today we're going to get into it because we ain't doing this bottom cast thing no more. This election cycle, ADOS is waking up all over the country. ADOS boomers are waking up. ADOS Gen Xers are waking up. ADOS millennials are waking up. And we are saying no more of this lesser of two evil, two-step all the way to hell. Because guess what, family? Guess who is the only one hurting when the Democrats are in office? ADOS, right? So with the Trump boogeyman in office, everybody's in pain. White folks get to own their racism loud and in living color with that orange man for president, right? And so folks want us to be deathly afraid of a Trump. Well, guess what I'm more afraid of? The extinction of my people. That's what I'm more afraid of than I am of another term of Trump. Okay? The extinction of ADOS. Yeah. Yeah. It's the gas chamber for us with them demo rats, family. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Shout out to Travis Johnson, Ida B. Wells 2.0. What's up, fam? I love you, Black and Strong. No tangibles, no vote. Oh, the music is loud. Okay, I'll remember that in the future because I'm loud too. Sorry about that. I'll turn it down next time. Okay, voters under 50 ain't going for it. The economic, that's right, Travis. The economic battlefield. No to Kamala, tough on crime, Harris. Yeah, as they sit up here and not talk about real reform, right? They want to reform what clearly isn't working. It's hard to reform the KKK having taken over the police and infiltrated all throughout the country, having been allowed to infiltrate. We just had a brother shot 7 times to the back. Milwaukee, I think, was it Wisconsin? Someone help me with that story, family. I'm going to look it up, but I really didn't want to deal with it this show. Family, you have to take care of your mental. Do you understand me? Some of this stuff will send you over the edge completely. Try not to look at these horrific videos. We already are challenged with post-traumatic slave syndrome. And each of these incidences just takes me, I know, reeling out of control. I can't watch it. At the George Floyd 846, I couldn't even watch that, and I'm forever traumatized. So I want you guys to take care of your mental and not allow this stuff to come in the way that they're constantly releasing it. Biden, okay, this is Travis. No to Kamala, tough on crime, Harris. Yeah, they don't want to talk about dismantling the police. Okay, this defund nonsense doesn't work if you are still able to murder us with impunity all over the country. So the laws have to change, not this little footsies that they playing with reform, okay? Biden won't get in if we don't have a huge turnout. Well, we need a huge turnout, Travis. We absolutely need to, let me explain. The Democrats owe us, okay, family? They are the ones that we've been voting for. We've been their mules for 55, 60 years, okay? So we need to not allow them top a ticket. I'm voting Green Party top of ticket. You do whatever you want, but the goal here is not to vote in the Democrats at the top of the ticket and put in a Democratic Congress. This buys us a few more years to continue to beat that drum steady for reparations in the trillions over multi-generations. That's ADOS put in that work. Okay, Narcan and Cobra been around for 30 years, as has HR 40 collecting dust. But that ADOS, okay, we are the movement, okay? We took that hashtag created by Yvette and we got to building on chapters in every major city state throughout the country. They don't know how large we are by design. They don't need to know. That's how you get access to doing things and dismantling us the way you did the Black Panther Party. But we moving and shaking everywhere, not just on this national platform for reparations, but local and state reparations as well. One doesn't wash away the other, family. That's not how any of this works. 4 more years of Trump doesn't scare us. Like I said to Travis' point, 4 more years, I'm more afraid of the extinction of ADOS, okay, with just a few unicorns like myself and many of the people that move in this movement. These are not the voices. The voices is out there trying to survive it. The ones that are within this movement are putting everything on the line because they get that they may have income, but they have no wealth to leave their children. Why? White folks share $100 trillion to ADOS, 700 billion, 90% of us share. So many of us are in that little 10%, which don't take much. It takes about $150K a year. And as I mentioned in a prior vid, Start your businesses, family. I'm getting real estate licensed and going through for my insurance license, and doing life coaching and motivational speaking. Mostly that's to speak about reparations all over the place, especially in high schools and colleges and other symposiums. What else? This show, I've got about 4 other shows in me. You guys have really got to work to become your own economy, because since COVID, we have lost indefinitely over 50% of our businesses, Black owned, that is. So you have got to find ways to become your own economy. Don't lose the assets that God has blessed you with behind the discrimination that's happening against ADOS all over the country. I shared out here that in the private sector, we're about 6% to Asian Indian. I want to say 35-40% of Kamala's people are in the private sector to our 6%. And we are 6% of the population here in LA. And they flatten that to include African and Caribbean Black as well. So you really must, because that check, we don't know when it's coming. We just know that we are going to keep the pressure on. We're on our square till it happens. Kenosha, Wisconsin. Oh my God, yes. The brother was shot 7 times to the back by the police. After George Floyd 846, we got about, I want to say roughly around 150 more cases of police violence and terrorism and government sanctioned executions against ADOS. Okay, that's happening after George Floyd 846 to the neck. It's never ending. And this is why, I am in total disagreement to have the author of the 94 crime bill and Cali's top cop leading this country. You see, that's a dog whistle to white Republicans. They believe they don't have to offer ADOS anything because they've got enough sheeple that are afraid of the boogeyman called Trump, who has not done to us what the Democrats have, right? Because of Biden, Clinton, Reagan, Nixon, Kamala the chameleon, we've got close to 1 million Black men on lockdown, many of which are there for nonviolent offenses, okay? And putting out here, Kamala told the governor she wasn't going to free them when she was AG. I'm not going to free them because I need them to work for $2 an hour, putting out fires of the white homes in the hills. And so we're not singled out in how that's running in every state throughout the country. They have our men. Now, I ain't talking about the hardened criminals. Put their asses in there and throw away the damn key. I'm talking about weed peddlers and, drug hustlers, because they took education out of the community, and then they took jobs out of the community. And now that everybody benefits from affirmative action, first white women, second to that immigrants, third to that LGBTQ, okay? So now that we don't benefit from affirmative action, they can just exercise racism in the private sector, public sector too. Absolutely, the public sector too. Most of the postal positions out here are immigrants. You'd be hard pressed to see a Black person. It's like, hey, you happy to see them when you see them out here pushing the mail, because they're a hard find out here. So we're being pushed out of all the sectors, and they're trying to make us the permanent underclass and replace our cries for a real solution like reparations, because they've not presented any other solution to close a $100 trillion racial wealth gap. And so in my previous shows, I've dispelled this misnomer that we have bought Jordans to our demise. We have weaved our hair to our demise. We have put on acrylic nails to our demise. That's dispelled. If you want to go look in the archives, speaking of which, make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel, Friends of ADOS TV, because Facebook is constantly putting me in jail. And at times when they do that, I can't even advertise or promote my shows over here. So make sure you go to YouTube and subscribe to my channel there and press on the notification so that you always know when I'm going live. Okay. So yes, it is imperative. We got one election cycle left, family. I need all my soldiers to break the back of the establishment. No more of this footsies with the lesser two-step evil dance all the way. down to where we are. Bottom caste in the country our ancestors built with their lives. Okay. And no one has presented to me outside of, about 50 trillion in reparations. How do we close this egregious racial wealth gap? I'm going to go over in a show tomorrow. You may want to tune in. Biden's Lift Every Voice But ADOS plan. And Kamala Harris, Do Nothing Burger for the ADOS community in exchange for our vote. Hers is a platform she was running on when she was running for president, which we already told them we don't want her, right? When we didn't put money and support behind her during her presidential run, that was a hit and a half for the Democrats, okay, that we don't want her and we're not voting for her. So they are choosing to do this by sending a dog whistle, as you saw Biden in an era of George Floyd 846 and defund the police and Black Lives Matter. Biden, sends a dog whistle and says, we want to increase resources to the police. You see, they're going after moderate Republicans. Okay, that's who they are going after. And it has failed epically every election cycle. And it's going to fail again now. But they are choosing to ignore us. Please don't come in my feed talking about, well, why don't you demand something? They've been knowing about us for years now. They know what our demands are. You've seen our demands voiced on every debate stage. They know we are wanting reparations and a Black agenda in exchange for our vote, not symbolism. And so let's stop making this about race. Okay, what I resent is Kamala putting on ADOS-ness to pander for the vote. That's why I'm constantly exposing the fact that she heralds from Brahmin Indian caste. Okay, she comes from the elite of that pyramid there. We're on the bottom as Dalits, which makes it easy for her to jail us and to, just have her way with ADOS over here, put us in jail for our children being truant. Just pick a reason. When she was DA out here, okay? When she was AG out here. Wouldn't prosecute Steve Mnuchin, who wrongfully foreclosed on our homes out here. Okay? Wouldn't prosecute him because he gave her like $11,000, which is no money. She sold us out for $11,000 and did not prosecute him for wrongful foreclosures on our homes when he was head of One West Bank. But you sure can put our drug peddling brothers and sisters behind bars, our mothers who are parents of truant children because of health issues, or the parents are working 2 and 3 jobs just to provide for the children so they can't always oversee them to school. You got room in the jails for us. You got room and time to prosecute us, but not the real criminals, not Steve Mnuchin. Now he's over it all, giving trillions to his billionaire buddies under the COVID relief. It's just been an all-out money grab as they prop up the stock markets at our expense. We're dying disproportionately from COVID because we can't afford health care. Okay? It's not like folks is going out here spending money on Jordans and vacationing nowhere. They're using the money to survive. And so the ADOS is made up of highly intelligent, educated professionals who are fighting for the voiceless and our children too. I had to use my retirement to save my home, as Bank of America was trying to wrongfully foreclose on it while putting me through a 2.5-year loan modification process. But God got the glory in that, okay? There was a $25 billion settlement from a lawsuit for wrongful foreclosures. Thankfully, my home was swept up in that rapture, and the mortgage was cut by half, okay? So I'm doing what I have to do to pull money out, invest in duplexes, and do what I got to do down here in LA to make sure my daughter is set, okay? Make sure you get your life insurances, family, as well. If you have money in your homes, pull it out, buy more property, family. This is what you have to do while they're stuck on stupid about our repair. Prayerfully, though, when we defeat them this election cycle, they will get it. The light bulb will come on. And like I said, family, understand me when I tell you this. The only folks that will be suffering under the boot of oppression if the Democrats get back in office will be ADOS. Everyone else is doing quite well at our expense because the color of white in this country is green. Okay? And they have given our repair to immigrants so for their complicity in keeping us oppressed. That's what's been happening to our reparations to prop up the stock market. I don't want to hear nobody ask me where they going to get, $50 trillion from. Nobody asked that when they was giving away all this money during the COVID. Ain't nobody asking those kind of questions of the government. But as soon as we talk about reparations and where that money's going to come from, woe is me, we can't afford it. No, we see what you can afford to do. You make money appear out of thin air, and we expect the same for our reparations in the trillions over multi-generations. And family, we get one shot to get this right. So look into all of our feeds of the ADOS movement. We've got to get those edits included in HR 40. Whatever the instruction is, Chris, I saw something from Chris out of Sacramento. Follow the instructions and help us get those edits, because I'm telling you, Sheila Jackson Lee and NARC and Cobra that sat on this for 30 years have gone in there and had their way with our HR 40, which is a study to discuss, how much we're owed and all these kinds of things. But they have tied themselves to that HR 40 where that money is going to be spread so thin, we'd be lucky to get $30 out of the deal if we don't make sure our edits are included. Okay. Let me see here. I was a shout out to Melsina Blanton. I think I posted something from you. I'm always copying and pasting the genius of ADOS that come in my feed. I constantly repost you guys. Melsina, your name is so familiar. She's going green. At the top of the ticket, we're asking Green Party at the top of the ticket. Travis is going green. What's up, Alfred Perry? Hello, my beautiful queen, sister, and friend. Thank you for joining the live. Trey Lincoln, thank you for joining the live. Congratulations. I don't know what that's for. Oh, I guess all the little things I'm working to achieve. All of us can do this, family. I'm working from home, and so I got time for it. You guys need to use this time. You're not going to get this time back. Use it wisely. Don't squander it. Become your own economy. Melsina says the only way to show these Democrats. We made up such funny names for them. I call, y'all might do the same. Republicans are Republicans. And for me, my name for the Democrats is Demorats. And so she's referring to the Democrats. Okay. Support Black-owned business. Absolutely support Black-owned. Darius McLean, teach my sister. What's up? Thank you for joining the live. Herbert Hayes, Lights Up Warrior Queen. I love that. Bless you. Absolutely. Okay. Travis Johnson, in racism now. Systemic, institutionalized systemic racism. That's going to be on the ADOS to break the back of that in the same way our ancestors broke through to our freedom. They rebelled, and it was not convenient. Neither shall this be. But it's time for America to fall as we know it and rebuild in a humane way that includes the very people who built all the wealth everyone else benefits from but us. We are the legs of the table everyone eats from, okay? Melsina says, Trump or Biden, it's still a win-win for whites. Absolutely. The only thing we have in our favor with Trump is he won't let the doors open to everyone. Sister, you said it. These Democrats are about to open up the floodgates. Now, Kamala told you, I'm not doing anything specific for ADOS. It doesn't matter that you're liquid $200 to my people's $245,000 in LA. It doesn't matter that you're only $8 liquid in Boston. It doesn't matter if you're only $11 liquid in Miami. I'm not doing anything specifically for you, but I'm going to open up the floodgates for my Brahmin cast to come over here and get these H-1B visas to give them a pathway to citizenship. Oh, no, you won't, girlfriend. Oh, no, you won't. ADOS is here. Okay, and we are shutting it down the way we were instrumental in shutting down your primary, you see. You will not make immigrants American over ADOS. That's not how any of this works. Okay. Let's see. Subscribe, family. Absolutely. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let's break their backs. Absolutely, Travis. He is for increasing funds for race soldiers. Yes, increasing funds for the cops in an era of George Floyd 846. That's where we're at, family. And now Kenosha, okay? Team Too Much, truth. Black Dollars University, welcome to the live. Say that, Ida B. Wells 2.0. I love it. Okay, Melcina printed, correct. Reparations now. Chuck and Rhonda Riley, they can make it rain on ADOS. Absolutely make it rain on ADOS. Y'all keep me laughing. Melcina, yes. Travis, the butter biscuits 40. I love the code. Undocumented immigrants nationwide is a disaster for ADOS. Absolutely. You can do that after you run us those reparations. But we are shutting this down every election cycle henceforth. We are on code, and we're teaching everyone to be on code. Okay, family? So with that said, let's get into the book. I was born to talk, family. Forgive me. This is the book club, Prejudential. Now, I know y'all, how many of y'all in the chat, tell me, by a show of hands or thumbs up, that you read this book? Crickets. You see, family? Okay, so what I'm going to do is breeze through a few of the paragraphs and just kind of chat in between. This book is fire. It just helps you to understand that you've never had a friend in government. And y'all need to get that real quick through your heads, that we have two-step lesser of two evil, two-step shuffle all the way to the bottom. And that's what a lot of your comfortable boomers, comfortable Gen Xers, comfortable millennials are encouraging you to do again. But they still can't tell me what Trump has done more egregious to ADOS than the author of the 94 crime bill and Cali's top cop. Close to 1 million black men in jail to put out Kamala's fires for $2 an hour. White homes up in those hills, not black. Okay? This is what they've done. And it trickles down, you see, when you can pay, when you can re-enslave us for these type of nothing wages. What happens to the job force? All of it's tied together, family. They don't want to pay the firemen $50 an hour to put out those fires when they can get, the prisoners to do it for $2 an hour. And these prisoners are in there because of institutional systemic racism. I'm not saying all, but many are there that are nonviolent offenders because when they rob you of resources, you got black on black crime and black on black murder. Let's not act like this is something new. And let's not act like this is just special wherein ADOS is concerned. Every group, when you rob them of education, jobs, and loans for businesses and homes, they do crimes and they kill each other. Okay? There's not a group out here. White folks kill each other 90% of the time. You kill who you around. So let's stop all this, just kind of sensationalizing the fact that folks are killing each other when this government has robbed them of anything to live for. Okay? So let's get into it. So this is Prejudential by Margaret Kimberley. I want to go through a couple of spots in the preface because I see some things that are reminiscent of where we are today. Okay, this show up, vote down is not new. W.E.B. Du Bois, 1956, he was on that. In 1956, I shall not go to the polls. I have not registered. I believe the democracy has so far disappeared in the United States that no two evils exist. There is but one evil party with two names. And it will be elected despite all I can do or say. That was W.E.B. Du Bois in 1956, family. Let's talk about it. Nothing new under the sun. He said, no two evils exist. There is but one evil party with two names. Back in 56, this was true as it is in 2020. They are two sides of the same coin. Two feathers of the same bird, okay? Once upon a time, there were millions of people living on a continent. Story time, boys and girls, because I know y'all didn't read, but I'm going to read a little bit for you. They were invaded by people from a distant part of the world. These newcomers killed the inhabitants via military attacks, infectious diseases, and outright theft of their lands. The invaders also kidnapped other human beings from yet another part of the world and enslaved them on the stolen land. More than 200 years after the invaders appeared, There was a war that ended slavery but accelerated the extermination of the indigenous residents, of which we were as well, family. Okay? Slavery wasn't our first trip here. We had Africans in this country who were explorers long before Christopher Columbus fell upon America. He didn't discover, you can't discover something that's already in existence, okay? But this is how you get miseducated in the schools. We were here long before 1619, and they could not enslave us because that was the strength of the Africans that were here. That's why they went to Africa, to buy us and to steal us and to make us the slaves in 1619. But we were here long before that. Know your history. There is but one evil party with two names, and it will be elected despite all I can do or say. So, family, I don't want you to fret if we're not successful in breaking and tearing down the backs of the Democratic establishment. Don't feel two ways about it. Let's just continue to do the work, continue to press. And tomorrow's show, I'm jumping all over the place, is going to deal with Biden's Lift Every Voice But ADOS plan and Kamala's Nothing Burger, okay? I'm going to show you what they're doing to us just to pander for the vote under a pretense that they're doing something for us while not doing anything for us at all. And then I'm going to read through ADOS 101 to show you what the ADOS has been leaning in on them for a few years now. So they can't pull this nonsense that they didn't know. Okay, look up ADOS101.com. Okay, let's get back to reading. More invaders. Okay, let me go back. More than 200. The invaders also kidnapped other human beings from yet another part of the world and enslaved them. Okay. But accelerated the extermination of the indigenous residents. Okay, I found my place. More invaders came until they had claimed the entire continent. The political and economic system of this land was built on these crimes. These are undeniable truths of American history that can be asserted and summed up briefly, but the devil is always in the details. Americans like to think of themselves as an exceptional people bound together by noble ideas. This belief is challenged, however, when history is taught more honestly and fully without omitting facts or telling outright lies. Presidents are outsized characters in America's narrative about itself. Children attend schools named after them. There are monuments dedicated to them. In every state, they have their own national holiday, President's Day, which presents an opportunity for the country's virtues to be celebrated. We are conditioned to feel a deep connection to these men hundreds of years after some of them have died. Right, family? Okay, the language used to create and protect presidential images is telling. The first several presidents are known as the Founding Fathers, a term that affirms patriarchy and white supremacy. George Washington is more than just the first president. He is the father of our country. Regardless of our group affiliations and histories, we are taught to see these people as benevolent figures, no matter what actions they took while in office. Okay? This book is an effort to shed light on the truth. I'm jumping around on page 3 if you're following. This book is an effort to shed light on the truth. George Washington didn't have wooden teeth as is commonly believed, but he did take teeth out of his slaves' mouths. He may not have chopped down a cherry tree, but when Philadelphia became the capital of the U.S., he deliberately rotated his slaves out of Pennsylvania so as to avoid their becoming emancipated as the law would have required. Did you hear that? We're going to get into it. All the men who became, and I'm jumping down, all the men who became president were able to reach that high office in part because they swore allegiance to American ideals that were built on tenets of conquest and enslavement. These truths are self-evident. The founding of the United States continued the conquest and genocide of the continent's indigenous population and protected the practice of slavery to this day. That's the private prison industrial complex. Slavery is still happening to this day. And Biden awards the states with $25,000 a bed to incarcerate Foados. And his own drug-using son, he made sure he protected the laws around powder to give his son, who had a powder habit, latitude within the law so that white men would not be arrested and jailed for the same crimes of ADOS. Y'all got us all the way mixed up if you think we voting for that. It ain't happening. Anywho, back to my story. The legacies of predatory capitalism and anti-Black racism are a huge part of our collective story. Hello? Executing Abe Lincoln, taking away the 40 acres and a mule, putting in Freedmen's Bureau Bank, and then putting white folks in charge of it who robbed ADOS. I think the amount of money they robbed today would be a couple of $1 billion from the ADOS who were newly emancipated and had to pull themselves up by their bootless straps. And that was the Democrats. Andrew Johnson took the 40 acres and a mule away. Abe Lincoln was Republican. You got to know this, family. You must know your history and how they've been doing us in since they brought us over here. Okay. None of this is ancient history that can be dismissed in the 21st century. These themes run deeply in our culture and they should be acknowledged and understood. Aristotle said, if liberty and equality, as thought by some, are chiefly to be found in democracy, they will be attained when all persons alike share in government to the utmost. And that's what we're fighting for. The right to finally be American. The boomers had a glimmer of it. But many Gen Xers, they had some, but the millennials have none of that. Which is why the Democrats are having a hard time with the millennials. They don't want no parts of voting. They're talking about staying home. Once again, I need everybody to show up. We need to at least deliver a Democratic Congress, especially since Trump may get it at the top of the ticket, given everybody is pissed. The progressives are pissed. ADOS is pissed. Like, everybody is doing some type of protest vote at the top of the ticket. But we need to put Democratic down ballot in there to protect the Supreme Court and to, I guess he could still appoint. But if we have a majority Democrat Congress, I don't know how that's going to work. Our whole goal in this is to just lock it down and keep it steady until the Democrats wake up in 2024 and actually give us the reparations we're seeking. This is the only way we can do it because we have no money. And when you don't have money in politics, you're on the menu, not at the table. Okay? Know that. More than 2,300 years later, we're still not there. Americans need to recognize the malignancies that have threatened the healthier aspects of our shared history and continue to do so. If we are ever to have the opportunity to be fully realized as human beings, capable of living in peace among ourselves and the rest of the world, then we need to be honest with ourselves to the extent that our leaders embody aspects of who we are as a people, studying how each president has participated in our nation's complicated and often shameful treatment of Black people is as good a place as any to start. Let's jump in. We're going to do Washington and Adams. These are quick chapters, and then I'll get you guys out of here before the hour is up. Okay, family? George Washington, 1789 to 1797. Children learn in school that George Washington's false teeth were made of wood. That is not true. Some of his dentures were made of ivory and metal, but some of them came from the human beings he owned. Can you imagine, family, having your teeth pulled as a slave, chattel slavery, like an animal, to benefit George Washington, our very first president? Washington became a slave owner at the age of 11 upon his father's death. 11 years old. He increased his wealth in 1759 when he married Martha Custis, a widow who had nearly 300 slaves, of which more than 80 were dower slaves, meaning they were granted to her upon her husband's death, while the remainder were in her custody until their minor son came of age to own them legally, while Washington had approximately 50. When Washington's dentures became ill-fitting and painful, he chose to get teeth from the people he owned. Records show that they were paid 122 shillings for 9 teeth, less than a third the going rate at the time. Washington told a friend, "I confess I have been staggered in my belief in the efficacy of transplantation." The payment didn't diminish the terror for the chattel. Foados. The fact that Washington owned other people at all was a crime, and a grievous one at that. But the father of our country didn't see things that way because he did not see Black people as fully human, endowed with unalienable rights, and so he did everything in his power to maintain his hold on his living, breathing capital. His story, sanitized for elementary school children, is a fundamental example of the lies told about our nation's history that keep Americans ignorant of the truth and how it affects them today. Okay, I'm jumping down. From the start, Northern politicians were held hostage by the Southern plantation economy. Southerners insisted that the capital be located in a place that was decidedly dependent on the planter economy. The creation of a new capital city was an enormous victory for the slaveholding class. Their peculiar institution was granted physical protection and the imprimatur of a government built to ensure its survival. A central political principle in the early days of this country was the maintenance and protection of the slavery system. However, anyone who believes in American superiority is expected to omit or at least downplay this fact to maintain the illusion of democracy and beneficence. Is that not happening right now with Kamala? Is she not being used in order to omit or downplay? Okay, let's go back. A central political principle in the early days of this country was the maintenance and protection of the slavery system. Hasn't she been used as a tool to keep us tethered to the bottom? However, anyone who believes in American superiority is expected, they got nothing for you, is expected to omit or at least downplay this fact to maintain the illusion of democracy and beneficence. Even the 10 years of governance in Philadelphia proved to be problematic. A 1780 Pennsylvania law guaranteed enslaved people the right to seek their freedom if they remained in the state for more than 6 months. Listen to this, family. Put your listening ears on. This could have put Washington in a bind, but he had a solution. Don't they always have a solution? The solution to escape paying us reparations in the Black agenda is to replace us with immigrants and pay them to oppress us. That's what's happening. This is what he did, family. He rotated his human property for 6-month intervals between Pennsylvania and Virginia in order to keep them enslaved. He did this in a flagrant violation of a 1788 amendment to this law, which prohibited such actions. In 1791, Washington started by rotating 9 people, including a dower slave named Ona Marie Oney Judge. In a letter to his secretary, Tobias Lear, Washington mused on the slaves' potential access to freedom. At any rate, it might, if they conceived they had a right to it, make them insolent in a state of slavery. As all except Hercules in Paris are dour Negroes, it behooves me, Washington speaking, to prevent the emancipation of them. Otherwise, I shall not only lose the use of them, but may have them to pay for. If upon taking good advice it is found expedient to send them back to Virginia, I wish to have it accomplished under pretext that may deceive both them and the public. Washington was serious about denying any opportunity for freedom. Oney Judge recalled her escape in an 1845 interview, and this is her speaking. Whilst they were packing up to go to Virginia, I was packing to go. I didn't know where, for I knew that if I went back to Virginia, I should never get my liberty. I had friends among the colored people of Philadelphia, had my things carried there beforehand, and left Washington's house while they were eating dinner. Oney managed to flee to New Hampshire in 1796, but she still was not safe. The fugitive slave clause in the Constitution allowed for her to be returned to bondage, and the Washingtons tried incessantly to get her back. With more than 300 human beings among their collective property. And they don't want to run you that reparations check in the trillions over multi-generations. Ooh-wee. The escape of even one might put the entire enterprise on shaky ground. A friend of the Washingtons saw Judge in New Hampshire and informed them. The president wrote a letter to his Secretary of the Treasury, Oliver Wolcott, demanding his assistance in getting Judge back. Quote, I am sorry to give you or anyone else trouble on such a trifling occasion, but the ingratitude of the girl, who was brought up and treated more like a child than a servant, and Mrs. Washington's desire to recover her ought not to escape with impunity if it can be avoided. Treat her like animals and then say we were loved like children more than we were servants. Pull our teeth to make his dentures, but we were treated more like children than their servants. Washington sent intermediaries to try to trick Judge into returning with promise of freedom. Those promises were lies. Sound familiar? As a dower slave, she could not have been free without compensation given to the Custis estate. And the Washingtons' determination to recapture her is an indication that they were unlikely to even contemplate such an effort. She avoided the attempts to entrap her and remained a free woman for the rest of her life. Not only did Washington not allow any of his slaves to go free, but he also did not countenance other white people doing things that might lessen his hold on this property. Sally Green was the abandoned wife of an overseer on Washington's Mount Vernon estate. When Washington learned in 1794 that she planned to open a small store in Alexandria, he was not pleased, and he wrote to his manager, William Pierce, quote, caution Sally Green against dealing with my Negroes after she is fixed in Alexandria. If she deals with them at all, she will be unable to distinguish between stolen or not stolen things. And if her conduct should lay her open to suspicion, she need expect no further countenance or support from me. Even the white allies had to suffer abuse for our sake. A great irony exists in the fact that Washington is now the blackest surname in the United States. 90% of the Washingtons in America are black people. It is not clear how many of them may be descended from Washington or the enslaved people on his estate. Booker T. Washington claimed to have chosen the name randomly when he was a child. Most of the ancestors of today's Washingtons probably chose the name as a way of identifying themselves with their country. A major irony in the face of what black people have had to contend with throughout the country's history. Isn't that not true of what we're experiencing today, family? This is in the 1700s. We are in 2020 still fighting this fight 401 years later. George Washington would express some reservations about slavery, exclaiming at one point that he wanted to be quit of Negroes, yet he never freed any in his lifetime. He did not have the right to free Martha's dower slaves or those who belonged to the estate of her first husband, Daniel Parke Custis. But in his will, he did agree to free those he owned after Martha's death. This left his widow, Martha, afraid that she could be killed by people who would gain their freedom if she died. Abigail Adams said as much after a visit with her in 1800, quote, "In the state in which they were left by the general to be free at her death, she did not feel as though her life was safe in their hands, many of whom would be told that it was their interest to get rid of her. She therefore was advised to set them all free at the close of the year. Martha decided to manumit or free at the close, free the slaves belonging to her late second husband, George Washington. But her dower slaves, those she received from her first husband's estate, never gained their freedom. Upon her death, they were dispersed among her grandchildren, splitting up numerous families in the process. And we wonder why we have a problem with marriage and having children in 2020. This has been happening to us since they dragged us over here to endure the most heinous chattel slave labor known to the free world. Last para, and then I'm moving on to Adams, and we can close out the show. And Adams is a lot shorter. I know y'all probably have ear fatigue, but hang in there. This is very important that we get through this book. It's very important for you to understand that now is the time to cut down the tall trees of the establishment and the oppressors. This is our last chance. These Democrats get in, like Melsina said, we will be indefinitely replaced. Hispanics are already a bigger group than us. And down here, I shared in my prior show that they're less educated than us and within $3,500 striking distance of our $53,500 median income. And in many places, the immigrants are younger than us, which means they've got a lot of time left to bring up their children and grandchildren in politics, to have it their way, and to continue like Sheila Jackson Lee, who is partnering with N'Cobra and NARC to deny us the reparations. We got in here in just the nick of time, but it's a lot of hard work, and we need all hands on deck to get those edits included in HR 40 to own our reparations out of the clutches of a people who have determined that everyone Black in this country is entitled, when everyone Black did not endure heinous chattel slave labor in this country. And we were their reparations. We were raped. We were lynched. We were on the breeding farms to grow the ADOS in this country. Our Black Wall Streets, about 60 in total, were burned down all over the country. And their salaries, if you listen to my prior shows, down here, African immigrants, $115,000 median income to ADOS's $53,500. Not by our design, 44% of us are educated. That is institutional systemic racism and our affirmative action going to benefit everyone but ADOS. 58% of the African immigrants down here are educated to our 44%. But they want you to vote symbolism over tangibles in exchange for our vote, not the ADOS. What's up, TROV Lee? I'm going to read your comment momentarily. I got to get through this next president. I've done talked myself too much, guys. I might run about 10 minutes over. Just bear with me. It's Rich, and I don't want to slow down because I want to finish the book before the election, to drive the point home that the Democrats and the Republicans got nothing for you. It's time to break the back of it. If we've got to be oppressed, everybody gets that heat, okay? Let everybody experience the smoke. Because the only ones that's going to get it real tough if the Democrats get into office is ADOS. Know that for 12 years. That's the setup. Biden's going out in 2. Kamala's taking it over and going to get 2 more terms. Washington was followed in the office of president by 11 other slave-holding men, 7 of whom owned slaves even while holding office. Their slave ownership was not incidental to their achieving the highest office in the land, but was inextricably linked to that fact. Slaveholding was profitable, and it is logical that the elite classes of that time would be represented in presidential contests. The United States was committed to maintaining this institution, and whether Northern or Southern, no president considered ending the practice until Abraham Lincoln was forced to confront the matter in 1861. Moving on to John Adams. This is a much shorter read, and I'm not even going to read the whole thing. Y'all got to get the book because I'm at 55. I try to get y'all out in an hour so y'all don't get ear fatigued, okay? John Adams, 1797 to 1801. Of the first 12 presidents, John Adams and his son, John Quincy Adams, were the only 2 who were Northerners and non-slave holding. But the elder Adams was far more pro-white than he was anti-slavery. He expressed racist views early in his life and took part in the shameful libel of a dead black man to win a court case. Adams represented the British soldiers who took part in the 1770 Boston Massacre. Crispus Attucks, a man who had escaped slavery, was the first victim to fall on that day. The military-industrial complex, the prison-industrial complex. You see the correlation? Adams' defense strategy included blaming addicts, to whose mad behavior, in all probability, the dreadful carnage of that night is chiefly to be ascribed. So, we take a fall in the 1770 Boston Massacre, and this is what you say about Crispus Attucks, who put his life on the line and was the first to fall post-slavery. His mad behavior, in all probability, the dreadful carnage of that night is chiefly to be ascribed. Adams also represented slaveholders in 4 cases in which enslaved people sued for their freedom. He lost 3 of the 4 and later wrote dismissively, "I was concerned in several causes in which Negroes sued for their freedom before the Revolution." He felt more angst on behalf of white Southerners than he did for enslaved people, and he asserted that the condition of the common sort of white people was more oppressed, degraded, and miserable than that of the Negroes. To Jesus, you can't make this stuff up, family. Oh my goodness. Oh, Lord have mercy. We got to get through it, family. We got to get through it. Everybody be strong. Hey, Brenda Renee. Okay. Adams bragged that he had never held a slave, though he could have done so in Massachusetts for most of his life. Despite his self-congratulation on the subject, he didn't think slavery was so terrible that it needed to end. And he made clear that he avoided animated speeches and inflammatory publications expressing opposition to the institution. So you don't hold slaves, but you give cover to the institution of slavery and don't want to run us that check, right? Show you right. Okay. He was concerned about the prospect of black people, whether free or enslaved, rising up violently against whites. Who was that sister that recently said in the George Floyd video 846, they better be glad that we want justice over revenge. They better be glad that we want justice over revenge. Almost done, family, with this portion. Violent measures would produce greater violations of justice and humanity than the continuance of the practice. would probably excite insurrections among the blacks to rise against their masters and imbue their hands in innocent blood. Adams identified with his fellow white people, particularly white Southerners with whom he promised not to interfere. The present slaveholders cannot justly be reproached. They have given proofs of dispositions favorable to the gradual abolition of slavery, more explicit than could have been expected. Like many presidents who followed him, Adams favored colonization, the forced removal of black people from the U.S. We made cotton king to the tune of $42 trillion, but they want to extinct us from here. They want to tuck us away, get it out of here. "30 years after the end of the Revolutionary War, he condemned the British for again giving freedom to enslaved people who fought for them, this time in the War of 1812. Instead of leaving the stolen Negroes to starve in Halifax and London or sending them to Sierra Leone, they have now planted a colony of them in Nova Scotia. 1,000 families are established in one settlement with 10 acres of land granted by the Crown to each, with an allowance of instruments and provisions for 2 years. 200 years of slavery. Oh my God. Yeah. But we get 10 acres of land granted by the Crown for 2 years. From this nursery are hereafter to be drawn recruits to invade the southern states to entice and seduce other blacks to desert or rebel against their masters in the nation." I'm just going to read the rest, family. I'm already at an hour. It's a few short paragraphs, and y'all, nobody answered that they read the book. So let me just finish these couple little chapters, these couple little paragraphs, okay? "John Adams has been damned with faint praise for never owning slaves, but his fear of black people and their continued presence in the country explains why he and his northern brethren bent over backwards to adhere to the demands of the slavocracy. Adams wanted black people to be kept subservient, or better yet, kept out of the country altogether. Adams and other Northerners weren't that different from their slaveholding countrymen in their feelings of racial superiority. They saw black people as irritants and inconveniences at best, and murderers at worst. They had no inclination at all to advocate for the enslaved. Adams admitted as much. Adams did not change in the years after his term in office ended. He continued to fear the presence of black people, and he saw no value in giving them their freedom. In an 1814 letter, he predicted that emancipation would end with the shiftless perishing from want or asking their old aristocratical masters to take them back, or inroads, depredations, and brigandages. This reminds me of what's happening modern day, right, family? They want to treat reparations like it's a handout, like it's welfare. You want to free the people with nothing and then get your pennies in a bunch that they need to turn to you for their very survival, that they need to rely on you as government who robbed them of everything. They're not quite free yet. I mean, this is little vestiges of it, you know, where there was a lot of pushback to this freedom, right? They weren't fully emancipated till Lincoln, but even a little bit of freedoms that were had in other states, look at how hard they had to fight for it without these white folks doing them in and putting them, finding new ways to re-enslave them. All you got to do is watch 12 Years a Slave to see how that happens, family, right? This is just woo-woo-hoo. Even after declaring himself utterly averse to admission of slavery into the Missouri Territory in an 1821 letter, he didn't want to say so publicly. He put it in writing. He feared that his son John Quincy's political career might be damaged by heated, prejudiced minds of Southern people. He begged his friend, "I hope you will by no means publish my letter." Disgusting, diabolical. Perhaps Adams felt the fact that he never owned another human being absolved him from needing to express any pro-emancipation opinion. He could be honest in his antipathy toward black people, unlike his successors, Thomas Jefferson and James Madison, who engaged in breathtaking hypocrisies. You got to have this book, family. It's such an easy read. You got to read it with your children. You got to teach them the truth. This Margaret Kimberley does so in a very succinct way on every president all the way through today, Donald Trump. It's powerful. The next time we'll be doing Thomas Jefferson on Wednesday, chapter 3. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 pages in a para. And James Madison, which is only 1, 2, like 2.5 pages. We'll get into those on Wednesday, family. Make sure you get your books. You can get them at Amazon. And catch up, please, because I would like to have an exchange. I don't want to sit up here and read to y'all. Y'all not in the first grade. You can get a book and read, family. Get off the TV, get off the YouTubes, get off the Netflix. This is such an easy read. You can do it right before the show. That show will be Wednesday, and tomorrow's show will be dealing with Biden's Lift Every Voice with ADOS plan and Skamala's Do Nothing Burger and the ADOS101.com and what we demand in exchange for our vote this election cycle. What's up, Falake? Oh, that's my church family. I love y'all. I love y'all black and strong. I got to pray y'all out. I can't read because, look, I'm at 106, y'all. I try to get you out in an hour. I know y'all get ear fatigue because I know I do, child, please. I will be ready. Thank you, Brenda Renee. Everybody get ready like Brenda Renee. She's going to get her book. She's going to be ready. Y'all, when you stay ready, you ain't got to get ready. And with that said, let me go back up because TRV, Tree of Lee, wrote something. Let's just put it on the boards and read this, and then I'll pray us out. Voting for 60 years and counting. Consent, senseless census, inventory did votes, change a thing, historical facts plus biblical truths concerning U.S. enslavement equals human trafficking plus sex trafficking of our children. Yesterday equal 13th Amendment. Prisons for profit, schools to prisons for profit pipelines, pedophile rings, institutionalized systemic, plus institutionalized systemic racism, medical genocide, plus medical organ harvesting and zero body autonomy, then and now experiments, then and now eugenic. Tree, you know what? You said that. That's all I can say. You said that. It's all of it, family. We are owed reparations in the trillions over multi-generations, a debt that is owed for slavery, Jim Crow, and accrued ongoing systemic racism, oppression, and disadvantage in the country our ancestors built with their lives. Visit ADOS101.com to get schooled on that. You guys can look up Biden's Lift Every Voice with ADOS plan, Kamala's Do Nothing Burger plan. Look that up, and you guys can be well read so that we can have an exchange tomorrow. Remember, you're my co-host over here in the chat. What else? Check out the Green Party, gp.org. The revolution is being social mediaized. We will be voting Green Party top of the ticket. Angela Walker, she's ADOS family. Beautiful ADOS, and she is a truck driver, and she's a single mom. Not that I'm celebrating being a single mom, but she's one of us. I want y'all to check out that very humane Green Party plan, family. I do believe it's a place for us to pivot. I know the People's Party is being formed, but if they don't have reparations on the menu, like the Green Party, I will be doing everything in my power to bolster up the Green Party henceforth. Remember, family, we have to be strong like the ancestors. It is time to break the back of the establishment and let America as we know it fall. We need a healing, and it's not going to be healed if we're the only ones under the boot. With that said, family, I'm at 109, and I need to pray you out. I need to put a covering over you like I always do. If you're not into prayer, into God, this is your time to say peace. In the meantime, for those of you who love God, who understand that you and the Father are as much one as Jesus and the Father, and want this covering over here, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us, and the presence of God watches over us. Wherever ADOS and its allies are, God truly is, because you are the face of God. You are the voice of God. You are the body temple of the Spirit of the living God. Until tomorrow, family, you go out in this world and act like you know who you are, and you make it a beautiful God-inspired rest of your evening. I love you, Black. I love you so strong. Bye, family. Thank you for watching.